Welcome to Adult Sabbath School Podcast. Please subscribe to the channel, share it with a friend, and write any questions or comments you have below.
This line, you've probably heard it before. It's one of the most powerful declarations of commitment you'll ever find. It's bold, it's absolute. But what's really fascinating is the crisis that forced him to say it. This wasn't a calm, peaceful statement. Oh no. This was a line in the sand, drawn during a time of quiet, creeping spiritual rot.
All right, so let's set the scene. Picture this. Joshua is an old man. He has led his people through decades of war, struggle, and finally, victory. He's at the end of his road. But instead of kicking back and enjoying his retirement, he's filled with this deep, nagging worry about the future of his people.
See, after a lifetime of hardship, Israel had finally made it. They had peace, they had land, they had security. On the surface, it looked like mission accomplished. But Joshua, with the wisdom that only comes with age, he saw that the real enemy wasn't some army with swords. It was something much sneakier: comfort itself.
And look, Joshua's concern wasn't coming out of thin air. He knew their track record all too well. This was a people with a long history of going wobbly. From complaining right after being saved at the Red Sea to literally building a golden calf to worship, they had a pattern of doubt. And Joshua could see it happening all over again. They were getting lazy and settling for a job half done.
And that brings us right to the heart of the problem he identified: the incredible, profound danger of just getting too comfortable.
Just look at this slide. The contrast is pretty stark, right? On one side, you've got life in the wilderness. They got food from the sky every day, they were always on the move, and they had to rely on God for, well, everything. On the other side, life in their new home. Now they have their own farms, permanent houses, and this feeling of being self-sufficient. That sense of "I've got this" was starting to push their reliance on God right out of the picture.
So here's the real trap. This new prosperity, it brought on what our sources call a drowsy, numbing complacency. It's like a warm blanket that slowly puts your spirit to sleep. Life was good, and because life was good, God started to feel, well, a little less necessary. He was kind of becoming optional.
And this led them to think, hey, we're done. Mission accomplished. But this is the tough question Joshua was about to force them to confront. Are we actually finished here? The answer was a hard no. God had given them rest from their major enemies, that's true. But there were still pockets of these idolatrous nations hanging around, and God's instructions were crystal clear. Clean house, no exceptions. But what did they do? They got tired. It was just easier to stop fighting, so they put down their swords and decided to just live alongside them, totally content with good enough.
Joshua sees this spiritual laziness creeping in, and he knows he's got to do something big. This brings us to this incredible, dramatic climax of his entire leadership career.
He gathers everyone together and just lays it on the line. No more beating around the bush. He forces a choice. Choose this day, he says. You can't have it both ways anymore. And then, and this is the key, he leads by example, making his own family's commitment totally public and non-negotiable.
Now the people immediately shout back, yeah, of course we'll serve God. But Joshua's no fool. He's seen this movie before. He doesn't just accept their easy answer. He pushes them. As you can see here, he makes them reaffirm their commitment not once, not twice, but 4 different times. He was testing them, making sure they truly understood the weight of the promise they were making. He's basically saying, are you sure? Do you really mean it?
So, why was he so insistent? Why not just take the win and call it a day? Because Joshua understood something absolutely crucial about the cost of being lukewarm.
This is what he was fighting against: lukewarm spirituality. It's that state of being halfway in. You know, where you say all the right things, you look the part, but you're secretly holding on to other loyalties, these hidden idols in your life. Joshua was making it plain. God doesn't do part-time.
And hey, this wasn't just some Old Testament idea. Fast forward hundreds of years to the book of Revelation, and you hear the exact same warning. This message is, well, it's brutal. It's a powerful rejection of a faith that's gotten fat and happy and thinks it doesn't need anything, when in reality, it's spiritually broke. God requires total surrender.
To put it simply, God's way is the way of life. Sin and the divided commitment that lets sin creep in the door always leads to chaos and death. That kind of so-called kindness that excuses sin and sets aside justice, that's not love, it's weakness. And Joshua loved his people way too much to just let them drift down that path.
This urgent call for a real, tested, all-in commitment, it didn't end with Joshua. Man, it echoes all the way down through history.
Think about this question. So simple, but so incredibly loaded. It's the question Jesus asked his disciple Peter right after Peter had denied him in his worst moment.
It's the same pattern, isn't it? Just like Joshua pressed Israel, Jesus asks Peter this heart-wrenching question 3 times. He wasn't doing it to shame him. He was doing it to heal him, to restore him, and to call him to a commitment that had been tested by fire and come out stronger. It's a call that goes way beyond just superficial promises.
And then the torch gets passed. The disciples took up this same mission. They became these ambassadors for Christ, pleading with people to make a choice to be reconciled to God. The call to move from the sidelines and get in the game is at the very heart of their message, just like it was for Joshua.
And so that brings it all right back to us, doesn't it? Joshua's final, urgent plea to a people who had gotten comfortable. It lands right in our laps today. It forces us to ask ourselves the hard questions. What happens when our own struggles end and we find ourselves living in comfort? This whole story leaves us with a final, really pointed question to think about.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.